This is Sports Drive.
Welcome back to Sports Drive once again. I'm your host, Preston Moore. Mentioned earlier, big news with TPSN. Lots of great stuff going on out at TPSN, including one of the best games I have ever seen last night. Only second to the game that happened a year prior between those two teams last night on TPSN. We'll talk about it here in a bit because that game streamed on TPSN. We've got more streaming tonight on the Texas Panhandle Sports Network.
The TPSN Breakdown.
And I'm joined in studio by TPSN Director Mike Roden. Mike, let's just get into it. Last night, Amarillo High, Monterey. I talked a little bit about it at the beginning of the show. This was the most anticipated game, I think, in any sport that I can think of that we've had this year so far. You guys streamed it last night at TPSN. You were on the call. Talk to me about what that experience was like. Obviously, the Lady Sandy's coming out with a big 7-point win. Jada Graves was phenomenal.
Man.
Talk to me about that experience. Just the game itself must have been great to be in the building.
It was, yeah. It was an incredible atmosphere. You know, I was talking with Jason Cooper, the Wayland Baptist women's basketball coach, and he was a great help to us last night because and we both were commenting. It's just a madhouse in here with people streaming into that building and waiting, you know, way down the street. On the campus of Wayland Baptist, hours before the game to get in. And a good thing they did because they started turning people away, after they sold all the tickets.
Wow.
And so, it was an electric atmosphere, just like it was last year down in Littlefield. Hats off to the fan bases of the two schools because they really turned out in force both last year and this year. And then you've got, two remarkable coaches in Jeff Williams of Amarillo High, who's, everybody's favorite, it seems like, or one of them. And then Jill Schneider, who is an icon of a coach, and she's playing there on a floor that, she played basketball for Wayland Baptist and was a huge star in her playing days there. And so, it had all the ingredients for sure. And then the two teams, sometimes you get those really hyped matchups that don't quite live up to the billing. And this one really had, some incredible expectations because of the 5 overtime game last year. And, the two teams really did live up to the hype. I mean, they put on a great performance. Hard to believe that just a couple of months ago, this Amarillo High team beat Monterey by, 50 points. Without Aaliyah Chavez. And Ambrosia Cole didn't play that game either. And then, last night, Aaliyah Chavez goes off for 50.
It's interesting that they beat them by 50 points without
And then
Chavez.
she scored 50.
Now they have Chavez. She scores 50.
Which would have told you how close that first game would have been.
It was right there.
Really, I thought going in, and I was hoping the Lady Sandys would prove me right, and they did, that they had the better team. Maybe Monterey had the most outstanding individual talent, even though, again, Amarillo High is no slouch in that department either, with Jada Graves going off for 31 and, solid, almost a double-double for Tatum Bell. And so Amarillo High's talented as well. But if you saw Aaliyah Chavez last night and maybe you hadn't seen her before, I mean, I don't know how you could say that she's not poised to do something really special in her college career, wherever that will be.
Right.
So, I think that, you give her the points, and Jeff Williams said this on our post-game interview, just don't let the rest of the team beat you. And Ambrosia Cole kind of had a hand in doing that to Amarillo High last year because she backed up Aaliyah Chavez in that game last year, both games against Amarillo High last year with big outings. Amarillo High didn't let Ambrosia Cole get going in this one. They held her to 9 points. That, in my opinion, was the difference in the game. And the team ball that Amarillo High played was just better overall than the team ball that Monterey played.
Well, real quick, we want to ask you briefly, what is the games that we can stream tonight on TPSN?
More girls regional quarterfinals. We've got Tascosa taking on Lubbock Cooper down at Canyon High School. Canyon High, the Lady Eagles down at Lubbock Christian playing Seminole. That's a rematch from last year. And then, of course, the CISD battle down at WT with West Plains and Randall. Won't get any better than that matchup. So all three of those will be audio streamed at tpsnsports.com.
We're very excited for all those games. I'll personally be out at Randall and West Plains. I think that's going to be a really great game.
I do too.
Rematch. We'll have coverage, like I mentioned earlier in the show, live on the news at 6 p.m. But before we let you go, Mike, we do have a big TPSN announcement. I teased it earlier in the show. Mike, we're starting a podcast.
We are, yes.
Put it bluntly, we're starting a podcast. The TPSN podcast is currently on Spotify. If you get your podcast on Spotify, go to Spotify, or you can scan this QR code on your screen right now to load our webpage. We're super excited. We're recording our very first episode tomorrow. We've got a podcast trailer out already. Mike, I'm super excited to get this thing rolling and get it off the ground because we've been working on it for quite some time.
You know, we're kind of limited here with how much time we can talk, and we won't be on the podcast. I mean, we can have time to kind of really dive into, you know, the games that we broadcast and we live stream. So that is going to be something really special, I think.
Absolutely. We're super excited. Like Mike just mentioned, we are limited and we're out of time, Mike.
Okay, well.
We are limited.
So tune into the podcast.
Tomorrow we're going to record our first episode of the podcast. It'll drop within the week, and we'll talk at length about that Emerald High Monterey game. We'll also talk at length about the games that will be streaming tonight. We'll have full analysis on that podcast later in the week. We're super excited to bring that to you. We'll be interviewing coaches, broadcasters from around the area, lots of in-depth conversations, just getting to know the biggest names around the Panhandle in sports, and I'm really excited to get it going.
Same here. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, we, like I mentioned, are out of time, sadly, but I'll see you next time you're on the show, and then I'll see you tomorrow on the TPSN podcast. Thanks for coming on Sports Drive in the meantime.
Oh, you bet. Glad to do it.
Absolutely. We'll be right back with more Sports Drive right after this break.